So we're back again with sob-worthy books. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today we're talking about books that made me cry. This is part 2, and there's just no way that this series is like ever gonna end. Number one, because I read a lot of sad books. Like, I don't mean to, but they're just kind of like, I'm drawn to those types of books. And also, I'm like a super emotional reader, so I cry a lot. So today is going to be 3 titles, and I'm just kind of like slowly working down this list that I compiled that I'm like always adding to. So yeah, here are going to be 3 books that will probably make you cry. So if you're in the mood for a good cry, that's all we're talking about today. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. So when I was deciding what 3 books I wanted to talk about today, there happened to be 3 on the list that were YA geared. So all 3 books this week are going to be YA geared sob-worthy books. Now, obviously, I'm a full-grown adult, and I still really enjoyed these, but a few of them are kind of hard topic books, but we'll talk about that, okay? The first book I'm going to talk about today is 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. Okay, if you have not read Jodi Picoult, I highly recommend her writing, okay? I would say that her books are like 50-50, like YA and adult. But there's always a lot of really great family dynamics happening in her books. There's a lot of great law issues, legal issues happening in her book. And she really hones in on like morally gray issues. And I just love the way that she writes. Like, Jodi Picoult was probably one of those authors that I first started reading when I started reading adult books when I was still probably a young adult. So when I was like 15 or 16 is probably when I read her first book. Like her first book for me, not like the first book she ever wrote. And it made me feel more grown up, and it was still written in a way that I could completely enjoy as a young reader. And now that I'm an older reader, I still find myself drawn to her writing style and her books in general. She's written a ton of books. I've literally never read anything of hers that I've disliked, because she has just like a lot of topics that she hits on. And like I said, very morally gray and lots of like legality type stuff in there. And she does toss between YA and adult and lots of family dynamics. Basically just repeating myself. So this book in particular, 19 Minutes, centers around a school shooting. So I know this is a very heavy topic. This is also a genre that I tend to read a lot. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know why I tend to read this book, but this is definitely not the first school shooting book that I've read. And basically, it's about one of the girls that survives the shooting and the trial. And it pulls a lot from the community and from the individual survivors. We also get flashbacks to the day of the shooting and the inside story of the school shooter. So there's a lot of heavy topics in this book. When I tell you I was sobbing through this book, like, she hit some really emotional high notes with this story. Like, I will say, there's a lot of trauma in this book, a lot of triggers in this book. I would definitely only pick this up if you feel like this is something that you can handle, but emotionally gut-wrenching. Like, it's just all over the spectrum of emotions for me, and it just really delivered. The next book I'm going to talk about is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. Everybody talks about this book for a reason, okay? This is also, like I said, all the books today are going to be YA centric. So this is a YA book, and we're centering around 2 main characters. One is Violet and the other is Finch. Finch kind of has suicide ideation, and struggles with his ups and downs from day to day. But he's also kind of this like live out loud character, and there's this kind of dynamic there where it's like the saddest kids are usually the ones that are the most entertaining or bright or encouraging, and this really fits for Finch. Like, he really is the type that will literally help anybody with anything while he's suffering on the inside. And Violet is struggling, in a word. Her sister dies unexpectedly, obviously, and Violet is unsure where she belongs, if anywhere, and she's dealing with grief that she can't understand fully because she's still a young adult. I mean, it's a heavy emotion for a young adult to deal with, and I don't think she's finding as much support as she needs at home because her parents are struggling with their own grief. It's kind of, you know, I hate to say it's typical, but it kind of is. Like, Violet's just not getting the support that she needs where she needs it. And Finch and Violet meet at the ledge of a tower at their school. Or like Violet is thinking about maybe jumping off the ledge. And this story just wraps around the two of their grief and sorrow and sadness, and they ended up getting paired together for a school project that makes them kind of like go out and have an adventure, basically. And as we see Violet piece her life back together, we see Finch's unraveling. I cried. Like, this is one of those books that everyone was like, it's so good, you have to read it. Yes, it's so good. Yes, you have to read it. However, nobody gave me the disclaimer that it would make me question everything, that it would make me sob my eyeballs out, that if I was in a kind of sad place, that I probably should not read this book. If you are in a sad place, this is not the book for you. This is not the time. Wait until your happiness comes back, because this will wreck you. Like, I've never cried so hard through a book. This book just ripped me apart. That being said, it was phenomenal. It was beautiful. They did turn this into a film. Pretty sure it's on Netflix. The film actually did a pretty good job. There's a lot of little moments, and this just happens like when you see film to or book to film adaptations. There's a lot of really small but important moments that they just can't get into the film. So obviously the book is better, but the film actually compares really, really well. Grab all the tissues. Like I said, don't read this when you're in your sad times. It's yeah, wait until you have the guts for this one. The last book I'm going to talk to you about today is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. Y'all heard me talk about this book. If you've been on my channel for a minute, I have talked about We Are Okay. This is another one of those books that no one told me was going to be sad. It's sad. I cried so hard through this book. Oh my gosh. But at the same time, beautiful. The representation here is really great. We have a female main character. Now I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. But she kind of has always had this sort of trauma-filled life. She's grown up with her grandfather, and very suddenly her grandfather passes, and she's left to deal with that grief on her own, and she doesn't really know what to do, so she basically runs away to deal with her grief. And this is kind of her story of her friend and crush coming to find her and helping her deal with her grief. It's very touching. Again, this deals with grief at a young age, which is I feel like people don't know how to handle grief for young people, because as adults we have a system, right? Like, we've kind of grown into ourselves and we can get the help that we need. But what happens to the people that falls through the cracks, which happen to be young kids that aren't really equipped to deal with heavy emotions like this? This kind of just puts it under the looking glass, and like I said, the representation here was really great. Be prepared to cry. It was just, I wasn't expecting to be so heavily affected by this book, and I was. And it's just so beautifully written, and it's just a snippet in time. Like, it's not a very big book. It's not super long or super heavy, but it's just so well put together. LaCour did such a great job with this book. I actually think that's all I have for you guys today. This was like a really short one, which, like, I feel like I needed to make it up to you guys because last week's was so flippin' long. It was such a long video, and like I felt like I needed to come in today and just like yeah, be kind of back to my normal self with the camera, I guess, or the channel. I don't know what I'm saying, except that this one's a little bit shorter. It's definitely a lot shorter than last week. Like I said, this list of like sob-worthy books, of sad books, just keeps getting longer. I will talk to you a little bit more about that next week, because I finished the book last night. I was literally sobbing. I was so sad at the end of reading this book, so I can't wait to tell you guys about it in the wrap-up, because it was a really great book. But yeah, I was sobbing through it. Next week is the maybes. I'm super excited about that. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!